So we've tuned the rig to the best of our ability, but there is one thing that throws us off. The mast is an inch and a quarter over to one side. I'm working off my bad eye.
Forward.
Hi, I'm Aladino, and together with my wife Maya, we are refitting a Cape George Cutter 36. This winter, we are going to replace almost all aspects of our rig, besides the mast itself. We are replacing the standing rigging, we already got 2 brand new furlers, and we are also gearing up for new sails. But to be able to order all of these parts accurately, we need to take accurate measurements. Taking accurate measurements is difficult. The boat is not always level. Boats, port to starboard, are not always built symmetrically. Fortunately, I had Brian, engineer the first, helping me with this project. Brian is Maya's dad, or my father-in-law, and I really love when he comes help out. I'm especially glad that Brian was here just to double check on my measurements, because we have uncovered some irregularities with the boat, and it was really good not to just lean on one opinion, but have that confirmed. So this is how we discovered the irregularities and what we plan on doing about it. 345.3. So we are going to measure for 2 things. First, we're going to measure for new sails, and then we are going to measure for new standing rigging. So the first thing they want to know is the furling drum height. That is from here, roughly down to this height. Measuring for sails is pretty straightforward. We are going with Zoom sails. They provide a PDF where they walk you exactly through the measurements that they require to make the sails, which are pretty straightforward. The one thing that makes a little exception is depending what length we want a pennant to be here, because I don't think we want the sail to be hooked into this shackle. For better visibility, we want the sail to start a little higher. So that's the only exception that we will have to talk about with the designer here. But the measurement they want is taken and written down.
Great. What's the next measurement they want?
The next one is from here continuing all the way up. Here we go, tape measure, a line to get this part back down again. But I'm actually going to start with the one in the very front. All right, tape measure is on. Okay, I don't want to have it all the way to the top, so I'm actually going to pull it down a little again. So now we're in at 14 meters 40. So I'm going to pull it back down. I try not to stretch the tape measure too much. Some are very flexible, but this one is pretty tough. So 10 meters 20. Put that in the box. Next one is forward triangle base. So from along the deck, from the forestay to the forward face of the mast. And we are not going to show this process step by step. Just know that if you are in the market for sails and if you want to go with Zoom sails, they provide the PDF and it's really easy to follow. But it depends who you choose. They all have slightly different methods, so stick with whoever you're going with. Okay, now on to measuring the standing rigging, and that's where some extra big guns come in handy. Marine engineer, also known as Brian, or Maya's dad, is back too.
Yes, indeed.
We still are operating under the original standing rigging, which is over 35 years old. It's good practice to replace it after, let's say, 15 plus years. Now, again, some of you might remember that since I changed the chain plates to outboard, they were previously inside the bulwarks, that has changed measurements a tiny bit, meaning that we had to add some shackles to actually be able to install the mast with its original standing rigging. Of course, when we built the new standing rigging, we want the new wires to be slightly longer, not to need shackles in place anymore. Before we actually measure the standing rigging, we want to properly tune the rig. Tuning the rig means ensuring that the mast is in the correct position, how it should be when you are sailing. So the first thing we do here is take a halyard, ideally if it would be exactly in the middle of the mast, that would be better, and then we hang a weight off of it. And that is to determine if the mast head is in the middle of the boat. That halyard we can then bring over to the port side bulwarks and to the starboard side bulwarks to see if that distance is the same. Of course, if on one side it's shorter, then it means it's leaning towards that side. You want to have the masthead perfectly in the middle. That's the first step. Once the masthead is in the middle, it can also be centered fore and aft. Now when the mast is leaning, the top is leaning back, that is called rake. And the rake can be given by the designer. We luckily have it in the blueprint, so it's a 1/4 inch per foot of mast. So after doing the calculations, that should be about 12 inches on deck where I'm measuring, even though it's a keel step mast. So then with that same halyard, with the weight off of it, I can see where is it hanging, and ideally then I tune using forestay and backstay until that weight moves about 12 inches back from the mast. So then we have our rake. And then of course there's many other details, but basically you are sighting up the mast, you want to get it as straight as possible, and you help yourself with the intermediate and with the lower shrouds to achieve that. You don't want an S bend in it. Now we have 2 sets of spreaders, so it's a little harder because you could induce 2 bends. So just a little bit of trimming to balance that out, get it straight, and then you're good to go. But while tuning the rig, we came across some irregularities. So we've tuned the rig to the best of our ability. We think it's straight. We look up the groove and you can see that there is no bend in it. One thing, of course, is how did they park the boat? How level is the boat on the ground? But that's pretty hard to determine because the ground is not level either. So one thing that we can see here is that we have a slight list to port because the halyard is not in the center, right? So yeah, those things all seem pretty good to us. That is why we've taken the measurements. But there is one thing that throws us off, and that is the opening of where the mast collar is. It really appears not to have been cut out in the middle, since we can see that we have about 1 inch of space on this side, but here it's almost touching. So first we thought, well, maybe that's the mast collar, like I said, that it was not put in the right place. So if I measure though from the mast side to the shrouds, we have 59 on one side and 57 3/4 on the other side, meaning the mast is 1 inch and 1/4 over to one side.
Over to starboard.
Over to starboard. So that's the last thing that we're pondering a little bit. Are we measuring correctly? Is it the collar? Is it the mast base? Because that could be slightly over to one side. And does it really matter with what we're trying to achieve here with taking measurements for the new rigging? So that's where we got hung up a little bit just now. trying to do this to the best of our ability. So yeah, this one we'll puzzle this one for a little bit and see what we determine. We have investigated, and the results of our conduct are that indeed the mast step appears to be not perfectly centered. There has been work done to the mast step previously, but yeah, now taking some measurements from the chain plates over to the mast center from either side reveals that the mast is over to one side, just as it is also revealed at the mast partners where we saw that there isn't an even gap around the mast. So this sideways displacement is consistent. It's showing at the hole and also at the foot here. So that is kind of confirmation for us that the mast step is slightly over. Regardless though, we are happy enough with the standing rigging measurements. Just to double check, we're going to do a little bit of trigonometry tonight. We have taken measurements of the mast, we've taken measurements from the mast to the side to the shrouds, we've written those down so we can do it again in numbers, see how much it changes if we do change the step a little bit. But yeah, the gist of it is once the mast is out, we might play with the mast step if it's easy and bring it over just a little bit, but that's not gonna be detrimental or change any of the other plans regarding standing rigging. There is enough room in the turnbuckles, so well, knock on wood, but hopefully everything is still underway very well.
What you doing, Aladino?
Well, we have a bit of time to kill. 20 minutes till the crane arrives. We thought, why not put this foam around the mast to protect it from the crane hook.
Okay, today's the day. Mast is about to come down.
As the mast was getting lifted off the boat, I was starting to get a little nervous. That was my chance of taking more measurements, moving further away. I suddenly started doubting the measurements that I took. And if I'm right that the mast step isn't perfectly centered, what other changes can that bring? And does it ultimately even matter? Towards the truck. No, up this way with that then. Further up a bit, then the mast's gonna do. Yeah, awesome, thank you. Oh yeah, I will. See how it sits. Okay, mast is down. Getting more and more comfortable doing this maneuver, even though hopefully after stepping it again, that will be the last time in a long time. But yeah, we learned from getting it up the last time, so it went pretty smoothly. Thanks for your help.
Oh, you're welcome.
Also Scott and Don. Yeah, totally. So it went pretty smoothly. Yeah, crane operator knows us too. He does an amazing job at it. He knows his crane. Not happy it's down, but it's gotta happen. It's for good reasons. Now I can do all the work to it. So yeah, so that we are brand new with everything soon.
Yay.
So even though I was doubting the measurements a little bit and I couldn't double check now anymore, I did decide to go ahead with moving the mast step. One worry here was that then the measurements that I took for the standing rigging wouldn't be accurate anymore, but with a little calculation we came up that the difference of change will be very little and the turnbuckles could take up the difference. So I decided to go and make those changes so that ultimately we would have the spar evenly centered within the partners. And that was the whole reason of why we discovered it. We tuned the rig, it was touching the partners, and I really didn't like that. You don't want to introduce a hard spot. We are going to use spar tight kind of as a wedge around it, but you need to have even spacing for that wedge.
So are you actually going to try and unbolt it and rebolt it in a new position, or what's your game plan?
Exactly. There is epoxy holding around the bolts right now, so I can't get a grip with my tool yet, but that's why I'm chiseling away the epoxy, and then I'm going to give it a try. If they come off easy, then I can see underneath. It looks like this is screwed through an aluminum plate, but then into hardwood. So if they come off easy, and that just means I can shim it over and drill 3 new holes, and that's the end of it, then I'm very much going to consider it. I took off the mast step as a preliminary inspection also, because on one side I was like, well, if this is going to prove really difficult, I could ignore it. It's 5/8 over to one side. But since we spotted it, and like I said, there is this issue at the partners, I was like, well, let me remove the mast step, investigate, see if it's easy to do. So the mast step was in with these pretty big lag bolts. There is an aluminum plate, about 1/2 inch, and then there's a block of Paduke, and under the Paduke is like a pedestal of fiberglass, and I believe under that is lead. So it was pretty easy to remove, and then I went ahead, I marked out the pattern, I moved it over by 5/8, and then I re-drilled new holes. So basically, we would already be kind of ready on this end to mount it over on its hopefully correct location. But I'm sure you can relate. It's tricky. Like now that the mast isn't up anymore, I'm like, oh, did we really measure correctly? Like in the moment we were so convinced, but it's one of those things that then as time goes on, you're like, oh, and what if I'm messing it up more now? And it's one of those tasks. Yeah, it's really got me in turmoil. But theoretically, it was, for once, pretty simple. I'm gonna fill these holes with epoxy, put in the lag bolts, and yeah, on this end, theoretically, we're done.
All right. So next steps here are actually building our new rigging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next step is going to Paul's workshop.
Yeah.
We're still determining if he has time and if we can build the rigging on his wonderful rigging bench. That would make it a lot easier and get some of his expertise. But otherwise, we're for sure picking parts up when he has them. And yeah, that's the next step, making the wires to the length that we have determined.
Yeah. I hope I mean, this whole thing has made me a little nervous.
Yeah.
But
everybody.
I hope this all has a good conclusion, but we really won't know for a little while until the mast actually goes back up.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. It gets me questioning everything as well, but I was here with Brian. We measured everything. Not to put blame on him if it doesn't end up working. We were both thinking hard. And yeah, no. I did feel very good about it, but the more time goes on, the more one moves away from it. So I guess we should just try to get it to completion and close the chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's going to be a little ways away, but of course, you guys will hear all about it when it happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting few days in the boatyard. There was a lot of uncertainty swirling in the air. These are difficult measurements to take, and they're compounded by the fact that, the boat is not on level ground and it's not propped up perfectly level, and there's all of these things that might conflict with the measurements being taken. And when the guys first discovered that the mast was not quite centered, they definitely, I could feel the uncertainty in the air about what to do about it, if anything, and how big of a difference it was going to make. But ultimately, it seems like this is going to have a really positive conclusion. It seems like a problem was discovered and hopefully now righted. So obviously we don't quite have the answer for you guys yet. The ultimate test will come in when the mast gets put back on the boat. But so far, for theory, this should be correct, and we'll keep you all informed. Huge thank you, everyone, for being here. We really absolutely could not do this without you, and we're so grateful that you've been with us on this whole journey. It's been a long journey. It's nearing its conclusion, and yeah, thanks for being here. Really big thank you to the folks whose names are now appearing on screen for always going above and beyond to make sure that Magic Carpet keeps being produced. Thanks to everyone over on Patreon. You can join Patreon for as little as $2 a month, and the really wonderful thing about Patreon is that it allows us to keep these videos sponsor-free, which brings us a huge amount of satisfaction and joy. To not have to interrupt the programming to tell you about a sponsor is kind of like, I feel really lucky to be in that position, and that is because directly of audience support. So thank you. In exchange, on Patreon, we post real-time updates every single week, which is really fun for us because it allows us to talk through some of the real-time queries and quandaries that we're going through and get some feedback from you folks, which is really helpful and hopefully enjoyable for you guys as well. I don't know. It's great for us, and it seems like many of you enjoy it, so that makes us very happy. Thank you. All right. Enough rambling. Wow, all the rambling. I will see you guys next week. As always, until then, chat to you in the comments. Bye. Okay, really quick interruption from boat work. Don't worry, there's plenty of that still coming around. It's been forever since I played the fiddle on the channel, but I've actually been playing a lot of fiddle in life. I've been going to a weekly bluegrass jam, and I've never really been much of a bluegrass player, but it's brought me so much joy to learn this kind of new genre, and it's just a ton of fun to play. So I'll play through a few tunes. I might start with one that's actually by a local bluegrass musician, John Reichman. It's called It's Been Real.